I was rescued, came back on the KIA bird next to Neil Roberts. I was back in the States, that week. I had nightmares, terrible, terrible nightmares, reliving that night. Could I have done something different? The RPG coming at me. And then Neil Roberts would be sitting about that far away from me with the damage that was done to him, just looking at me. In the nightmare, I could tell that he was saying, why did you leave me? I'm dead. Why did you leave me? So the only way to get past that was alcohol. And I had to do it to the point where I went to sleep. So it was a lot of whiskey. There was a point where I knew that wasn't right. You can't put the nightmares away with alcohol. So I went to the shrink and I told him everything. In doing that, he kind of reinforced I was normal. These dreams, they're normal for somebody who experienced what you experienced. So we're starting to bring the bodies out. We haven't found everybody yet. And the Charles Imbitter beacon comes up. So I talked to the AC-130 crew. I said, here's what I'm trying to do. I need terrain denial. And they said, oh, well, we'll just do 40 millimeter over here, 25 millimeter here. We use the 105 on this. A-10 will drop a 500 pounder here. And they sequenced it all out for me. And it all worked out. And we got them out of there. And then started to withdraw everybody. It took 2 weeks. This is the hardest flight of my life. And so we do a memorial service. Now, this whole time, mind you, I've been a machine. Externally, people are just, wow, Al's just doing it, right? When we're done now, all the bodies and the survivor are out of there. I walked over between two bee huts in the shadows. I put my back against it, slid down, and just cried. I finally was able to let it go.
Let's talk about one of the instances where you felt the illusion.
So I'm in Afghanistan, and we're coming back from a mission. The rain is just coming down, and you can't see out the window. The radar has limitations when it comes to rain. If it's too dense, it sees it as an obstacle and tries to climb you over it. It says we're level, but it doesn't feel like we're level, and we weren't. And my buddy's flying, Rich. He says, Al, I'm getting vertigo. And the aircraft starts to veer toward the rock wall, right? So I take the controls, and now I'm getting the same sensation. And I'm like, dude, I can't do it. You got to take the controls. If we don't stay right on the course, we are going to crash. We passed the controls back and forth for 5 minutes, and we popped out of the clouds, and now we can see. And now your brain can re-register what you're doing. You can ignore all of the instrumentation. We're like, oh my God, we almost died. And all of a sudden, my flares go off automatically, right? In the movies, you get a surface-to-air missile fired at you. It's a heat seeker. It's like, oh, a missile, 2 o'clock, I'm evading. I'm cutting my heat signature. No, it's more like it goes by, and you go, holy crap, it didn't hit us. I'm like, hey, was that an inadvertent launch? Because sometimes they go off, for no reason, and it's not a missile. And it's like, oh, yes, sir, it went right between us. I'm like, damn it. So the conversation is, all right, missile fired, coming down left. I kind of drop down. I'm in like a creek bed, about 10 feet off the deck, because what I'm trying to do is put just enough of the subtle terrain between me and any potential follow-on shots. And I come into the embassy, I'm doing about 150 as I cross the wall, and I got to stand this thing up on its end and drop it in. The general's like, oh, thanks for the flight, guys. And I'm like, sir, get out. All right, well, have a good day, He had no idea, just didn't know, right? We start climbing back up 12,000 feet, and the controls lock up. We lost all our hydraulic fluid, and we are just flying it 12,000 feet over the battle, and I can't do anything. And the guy in the back, the crew chief, there's a little fill port. He opens it up, and he pours a can of hydraulic fluid in it. I was like, I have control. And so I turn the aircraft back inbound, and the controls lock up again. And we start sliding uncommanded to the right, and I can't stop it. So there's a saying in aviation, never quit flying the aircraft. I look at where we're headed, and I jam on the right pedal, and the nose swings around in the direction of the drift. So we hit the ground, and I'm like, holy crap, we're alive. There's a couple points there I didn't think we were going to survive. We're flying along. The weather is terrible. My heart's about to jump out of my chest. We run into a sandstorm, several thousand feet thick. You can't see out past the probe. Off we go. And we are using the terrain following radar for the first time in real life. We make our first turn, and then the damn thing reboots. The darndest times, it would just boop, go into its reboot cycle, and you'd have to figure out what was wrong and get it back, right? In the meantime, all you can do is climb like your life depends on it, because it does. And so my co-pilot, he's got the power pulled into his armpits. We are climbing at about 4,000 feet a minute, and I have no idea what's in front of us. So I'm scrolling through, trying to find a map scale that will be useful to me. And I find one, and it's like, it's a mountain right here. I get the radar back. So I give him a heading cue. I say, follow that cue. He does it. We descend because the mountain's now off to the side. We get around it, and we rejoin the course. I rotate over, and I dive down the mountain. What I don't know is that Navy SEAL Neil Roberts, is headed toward the back as we're rotating, and the crew chief in the back grabs him, like, I got you, and out they go. Neil falls about 12 feet to the about hip-deep snow, and the crew chief is on a tether, and he's hanging beneath the aircraft, and I don't know that. I'm literally on the treetops because the dish kit is shooting at us, and so I'm trying to get down below his potential for elevating the gun down. This guy's feet are tickling the frickin' trees. Crew chief's telling me, sir, we're okay. The engine's running. You can level off. So now instead of crashing at the base of the hill, I level off. We're about 9,000 feet. They say, sir, we lost a man. I'm like, what do you mean you lost a guy? I'm in total denial. I'm like, give me a head count. I'm like, sir, we don't have to give you a head count. We just watched him fall out the back.
What did you find to be the most challenging portion of flight school?
Night vision hovering, because you had to maintain a 3-foot hover. You didn't have a radar altimeter, right? You looked out through the chin bubble to the side door, and if you saw individual blades of grass, it would be sort of fuzzy, which meant you were higher than 3 feet, and you wanted to get down just enough so the individual blades of grass stood out, and that's like 3 feet.
Hold on.
Yeah.
How the hell do you see individual blades of grass?
Oh, they're blowing all over the place, but you can.
Damn.
And, but this is why flying in the desert is so tough, because there's no texture. The Army kind of gave itself a false sense of security in how well we could fly in the desert, right? Because, it's not that hard, right? And then you get over to the Saudi desert, it's like flying in snow. You look out, you can't see individual grains of sand. So that was tough. A good story here about never quitting is that one of the guys I was competing with, if you will, when the assignments came out, they did not give us choice. We all got shoved off in Hueys, and he got mad. He stopped trying. And then toward the end, the Army said, okay, we're going to do 2 slots from your class, get Chinooks. And we're going to take the number 1 and 2 guy. And I happened to be number 1, and my stick buddy was number 2. And this guy probably would have been 1 or 2 had he kept going, but he gave up. And now he's like throwing stuff around the classroom. He's like, damn it, I shouldn't have quit, And it's like, good point, buddy. And I remember to this day, I use that lesson on my kids and tell them, it's like, don't get mad that you didn't get the job you wanted. Don't get mad that you didn't get this or that. Things always work out. They just do. Don't give up. When they started arming these things and we started doing kinetic strikes with these, they were claiming PTSD. And a lot of guys were getting mad, saying, there's no way they could do that. Why are they mad or upset, that they're people from a distance? And I remember thinking, there were certain times of the first part of the war, we did not shoot back if somebody shot at us with the intention of using darkness, so maybe they don't see us. And I remember getting shot at a lot and feeling very vulnerable. Then one year, I said, screw it. Somebody shoots at me, he's going to eat lead. I realized at some point I felt better being able to defend myself. And it's kind of like we both have an equal chance of dying. But the guy flying the drone, it's one way. Mm-hmm. You have the opportunity to kill somebody and he doesn't have the chance to reciprocate. Maybe that is part of the post-traumatic stress, is like they feel guilty that they can't die doing it. We had to get through the Taliban to get to bin Laden, and we know where he is. Right? We know he's in the Tora Bora Mountains. They take the Delta guys down there. They've got 2 Chinooks, and they are dropping bombs like nobody's business, right? Those mountains glowed for a week after that. He disappears off the radio, bin Laden. He's severely injured. We stopped bombing him, and CENTCOM thought he was dead.
No.
Sitting there going, you got to keep up the pressure. And he got into Pakistan. I don't know if you ever read the book by Dalton Fury. It was actually a guy named Tom Greer. He was the Delta commander who had bin Laden within small arms range, and they were going to kill him. And the Afghans that led them to bin Laden didn't realize they were going to kill him, and they switched sides. And the Delta guys had to withdraw, and bin Laden got away.